Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has spoken today to several world leaders as part of a coalition of the willing. That's countries working to help Ukraine militarily and financially. It comes as diplomatic efforts ramp up to bring an end to the three-year-old war. The CBC's Anna Cunningham is tracking this story for us from London. We've been talking since this meeting began earlier this morning. We've now heard from UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. What's the latest on this?
Yeah, this was a 2-hour meeting. Took place virtually, Marianne. Coalition of the Willing is what it's being called, and as you said, including Canada. This morning, they have concluded that it's time now for action and not words. We've heard just a short time ago from the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer confirming that after today's meeting, they are moving to an operational stage. Now, he said that there will be a meeting this Thursday of militaries from those 25 countries that are in this coalition of the willing. And he said the moment has come to accelerate practical work needed to move towards a peace deal. Now, remember that we are at the point where we have seen Ukraine agree to a 30-day ceasefire deal that was put on the table by the US when the delegations met in Jeddah earlier this week in Saudi Arabia. But President Vladimir Putin has not agreed. We heard from him in the Kremlin on Thursday. He talked about how he was considering it, but he said he had a lot of questions, and with that, conditions. Now, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that that was a yes, but no from President Putin. He spoke about why the group is needed for Ukraine's security. Take a listen.
The group I convened today is more important than ever. It brings together partners from across Europe, as well as Canada, Australia and New Zealand, with backing from others too, including Japan. We agreed we will keep increasing the pressure on Russia, keep the military aid flowing to Ukraine, and keep tightening restrictions on Russia's economy to weaken Putin's war machine and bring him to the table.
Marianne, I think what we're hearing today is really this collective pressure. Keir Starmer did talk about a political and military momentum. Now, people will still have questions as to whether that means that we are likely to see military troops on the ground as peacekeepers in Ukraine if there is a ceasefire deal. He didn't elaborate on that any further, but we do know that both Britain and France have said that they are willing to do that. Keir Starmer did talk about the coalition of the willing expanding, and that more countries are coming in to join them in this action. And the one thing as well is that it seems they are very determined to keep up that pressure, including economic pressure on Russia. Marianne.
And as we heard Keir Starmer also say, they don't want to wait for Russian President Vladimir Putin to act. And we know that Russians have been in talks with U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration. So what's happening on that side of the conflict?
Yeah, this idea that, waiting for Vladimir Putin, who said that he wanted to have a study done into the possibility of a ceasefire. I mean, Keir Starmer there saying that that's just out of the question. We did see Vladimir Putin inside the Kremlin meeting with a rare European ally. That's Alexander Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus. And this was when he talked in a very roundabout way about this 30-day ceasefire, saying that, he still had a lot of questions. But even though you've heard that from the Russian leader, in terms of what's coming out of the US, President Trump still sounding very positive about this. Have a listen to what he said last night.
We've had some pretty good news coming out of Russia. We're hearing good things. Who knows? But we're hearing good things. Enough people have died. So we'll see what happens with regard to all of it. But I'm getting, from the standpoint about a ceasefire and ultimately a deal, some pretty good vibes coming out of Russia.
Now, what President Donald Trump says there has been echoed by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who, of course, was in those talks in Jeddah. He was also at the G7 in Canada, and this is what he said.
suffice it to say, I think there is reason to be cautiously optimistic. But by the same token, we continue to recognize this is a difficult and complex situation. Ultimately, you know, we're going to reconvene, and the president will have options available to him, and decisions will be made after that.
Marianne, I think what we are looking at here is a slightly different approach coming from the US, who wants that ceasefire immediately now. Europe also wants the ceasefire, but they're bringing together this coalition of the willing. And it will be interesting to find out when we get more details about what's being called an operational phase now, and this meeting that we've been told is planned for Thursday of the countries and their militaries meeting here in London. Marianne.